Alright, chat. This video is from Star Wars Theory called Leslye Headcannon blames Star Wars YouTubers for the Acolyte's failure. I don't think you really have to blame anybody else except for yourself.
Why are you guys looking at me?
You made a bad show.
I didn't see.
You made one good episode in the entire show. And even then it was kind of corny.
Any Jedi missing, okay? No Jedi have gone missing. God.
Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Leslye
What about the
Headcannon
droid attack on the Wookiees?
blaming Star Wars YouTubers for the failure of the Acolyte. Let's get into it.
Black Friday sale on now.
The Acolyte creator explains why the show was canceled in new interview. Now I was thinking, how am I going to talk about this? Because she calls out Star Wars YouTubers, not directly, but, being a Star Wars YouTuber.
Impressive. Very nice.
Who was pretty vocal about the Acolyte, just like all things Star Wars. She comes up with some pretty ludicrous claims as to how YouTubers were able to push the needle on a $250 million show.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
So we're going to get into it with a lot of facts, a lot of just composure. Let's see what makes the most sense. I'm not going to try and be super funny or anything like that. I'm just going to get to the point because this is kind of ridiculous, I have to say. The inability to take accountability for perhaps just writing a show, a script that really didn't hit, which is the case. She decides to blame extrinsic factors such as YouTubers. So let's just get into it, okay? So this is an interview that came out today with The Wrap, and it is, I guess, there's quotation.
Does Star Wars Theory play GTA 5? I'm seeing the Rockstar logo down here.
Already dug out from it from the Holo files, so shout out to them. All right, sit back, leave a like, and this is going to get pretty wild. Let's do it. Headland explains that making the Acolyte was always a major risk. She says it was a new part of the timeline. It was all new characters. It was a part of the lore where you couldn't use a stormtrooper. You didn't have the reference of the politics and war that Tony Gilroy has brilliantly exploited in such a genius way in Andor. But all that iconography...
Exploited? Why'd you use that word?
And all those visual references
That's a weird
are
word to
original
use
trilogy
there.
references. And our references were the High Republic novels and the Publishing Initiative, and then the prequels, specifically with the lightsabers. I would argue, right off the bat, that there is so much more iconography with the prequel trilogy and the depths of the weeds that you can get into with different Jedi and using the Force and whatnot. And you're now going 200 years before that.
Well, yeah, but this is why people actually like the prequels, is because it's cool. It's the one that expanded the Star Wars universe the most. I mean, we ended up going to what, 10 more planets than we did in the original trilogy? We saw so many more species, so many more Jedi, even more evil characters. We got battle droids, clone troopers, we got all this stuff. And then there's still people out there that are like, the sequels aren't part of the story. What do you mean they're not part of this story?
Yoda, and so many new characters you can bring into the mix. And the first thing she did was to bring a character who wasn't even born yet, Ki-Adi-Mundi.
We must alert the High Council.
Who not only shouldn't have been there, but also saw the death of Jedi, saw that a group of Jedi were hush-hush about it, and then never told Yoda. Oh, I already know this video is going to be rough, man. All right, let's get into it. Let's get to the part where she starts blaming, I don't want to say me, but probably. There were so many people on the internet saying that I was the one who caused the Acolyte to not be renewed. I didn't know I had so much power, man. I didn't know I had that much pull to be able to speak my mind and cancel a $250 million show.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Do I have the same amount of power to get a proper Kenobi season? Do I have the same amount of power to get a Mandalorian season 4, which I saw Jon Favreau actually talked about today, which we'll get into in another video? Do I have enough power to...
What was that? Season 4 is already written. We're planning on doing a 4th season. I had actually written all of that I have. I still have season 4 sitting on my desk here. So they wanted a guaranteed hit in the movie theater, so they made it a movie. We already know this, but that's still so disappointing, bro.
Saw Jon Favreau actually talked about today, which we'll get into in another video. Do I have enough power to retcon the sequel trilogy and create an entirely new one? I don't think so. I can't even get enough power to get over 10,000 views on lore videos, which back in the day would do 20, 30 times that. I also think that any gripes creatively with the show are completely valid, Headland remarked. That's great. That's a great way to look at things.
Perhaps I treated
I do feel bad for Star Wars YouTubers because, like, Star Wars has almost completely fallen off a cliff at this point. And it's like, if you try making content about it, people don't watch it anymore. Or if they do, it's not enough people that watch it anymore. Like, Star Wars Theory is the biggest Star Wars YouTuber on this entire platform and on the entire internet. And he's still struggling to get views. That's not a good sign for the property.
too harsh.
That's people's reaction. It's usually their reaction to their own reaction. That's really not a great way to look at it. I totally want you to have your own opinion, but just know that your opinion is probably because you're a shitty person. What?
You know, it's a masterpiece written by a genius.
If it's a good opinion, then you're probably a great person. It's a reflection of you at the end of the day. I'm now a psychologist. But like I said, the show was always a risk. Any show is a risk. Any piece of art is a risk. And especially when you have, tons of lore before it, and you throw in a dead character and change up the whole lore when nobody's supposed to have seen a lightsaber in 1,000 years, a Sith in 1,000 years, you're really starting to muck about stuff that shouldn't be touched.
Bro, she's just brain dead, bro. We're talking about Leslye Headcannon here, okay? Alright? Like, I don't know what you want from Leslye Headcannon.
It's the old adage of the first one.
She's not gonna follow
through
the
wall
rules.
is the bloodiest. Headland addressed that what her experience was like seeing the show be attacked by people in the media, including those in Star Wars media. I was not online, Headland says. However, I am a Star Wars fan, which means I have always been, since the launch of YouTube, part of the Star Wars recap, criticism, ionization fandom community. These guys I've known for years and years. So when I got the information from others about what the weather report was, there was this real concern from friends of mine or coworkers of mine.
Didn't we, find out, a year ago that she was Harvey Weinstein's assistant or something? Something crazy like that? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure that was a thing that happened, though. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments.
That saddened me. The show saddened me too.
I've given up trying to argue with you.
I also was like, I know who these guys are. You don't have to tell me who's talking about it or how bad it is online. I know exactly who they are. I supported them on Patreon. Maybe she supported me at one point because I was doing my own film. There are some of them that I respect, and there are some of them that I think are absolutely snake oil salesmen, just opportunists. Then, of course, there are the fascists and racists. So it runs a gamut. It isn't just one thing or the other. Right off the bat, look,
Yeah, there's the racist ones. How can you be fascist about Star Wars, by the way? Is she talking about the guy that said that the Empire was right in that one video? Is that what she's talking about? Because that's the only example that I can think of. Is somebody agreeing with a fascist dictatorship that existed in the universe. Somebody just making a video saying, hey, the Empire was good, actually. That's the only thing that I can think of an example for. What are we... You think there's fascist Star Wars fans? In regards to Star Wars and Disney as a thing that's not involved in politics. You think that there's people that are Star Wars fascists. The fuck are we talking about?
Let's address what we always address. In every fandom, in every type of world, sect, whatever, there are fascists and racists. There's always going to be extremes on every single side, and I think a extremist of anything is not good. Water is very good for you. You drink too much of it, you can die. All right? Racists, yeah, we don't have any place for that. However, and there's a big however here because it really does matter, the percentage of ists and phobes who call out anything that doesn't have to do with the story or plot or anything like that, but just because they are ists and phobes themselves, is a fraction, 0.1%, if anything.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is there are people that exist that are homophobic or racist towards a thing that exists in Star Wars. But it's not the majority. So, like, why are we trying to group everyone together as every Star Wars fan who talks about Star Wars on the internet is a bigot? That's not how it is. And I'm sick of hearing Disney and everybody involved in Disney always blaming their failure on people that are bigots. Because there's not enough of them in the fandom to begin with for you to be making that blame on your fans, like the people that give you the money to make the projects. If people stop supporting Disney, Disney's not going to make enough money to make anything else. So, like, why are you harassing the people that are financially supporting you? You know what I mean?
Taking over.
Yo, what's up,
And
Enoch?
I think it would be really ridiculous to cover 99.9% of people out there who are fans who are coming up with constructive criticism as to why they may not like a piece of art which has a long-standing level of history and lore and guidelines and things that you have to adhere to brush them all with the same of that 0.1% of ists and phobes.
Like, I still don't even like the fact that they brought time travel, essentially, to Star Wars. The ability to go back and revive dead characters. The fact that people can get stabbed through their entire body with a lightsaber and they just come out with, like, a fucking pistol wound. Like, that's not how it works. You can't get stabbed with a fucking laser sword and be like, it's fine. I could do this all day. I'll walk it off. Bro, acting like Star Wars raised him. It pretty much did, though.
That to me just seems really low IQ because you are not addressing the bigger thing, which is that so many people have actual constructive criticism and good points to make.
We must move quickly. They're relentless.
Right? But you just throw them all under the bus because there's a tiny little fraction out there in the corner that's yelling out into the ether. And all of a sudden, the people who dislike the show just like the ists and phobes do, then all of a sudden they're the same. Come on. Now, the idea of her saying that she supported them, perhaps me, I don't know, on Patreon, maybe with an alias, I don't think really has any sort of credibility here because she was given a $250 million budget to make a show to honor George Lucas's legacy and build upon this beautiful story that he's created, and namely probably one of the most important parts of Star Wars, which is the prequel trilogy. And her whole idea was to create Osha and May as the first Force being that was created from the Force, that the Temple would then have second thoughts about once Anakin stepped in, because they would be like, wait, 200 years ago we had Osha and May, and now we got to think about this. Even though this is also known as the Chosen One, as Osha and May were, that didn't go well, so we now have to double think this. She wanted to superimpose her own new story, her own characters, in front of Anakin, in front of what George created, which was supposed to be the Chosen One, the first time that this happened. So the idea of supporting on Patreon, I don't see the relevance here. If someone was making a project or you supported someone's content, then that's great. But just because you donate to someone or you send them money, that doesn't mean that they have to shut their mouth then. or can't say anything
True.
when it comes to something that is so unbelievably important to so many of us. And you calling yourself a Star Wars fan, Leslye, I believe you would understand that no money in the world can buy you, unless it's $250 million.
I'm absolutely terrified. I've worked on this for 4 years.
No amount of money ever bought a second of time. That's a quote from Iron Man. Doesn't really have anything to do. I just really wanted to say it.
It's my baby. I have combed every moment, every performance, every stunt.
Headland continued, says the article, so in some ways I wasn't surprised, and in other ways I was disappointed. I think you always do that when you create something. It's just that Star Wars is on a massive level of visibility. So is every sort of piece of art. Anything that you do that's put on the internet, you are essentially standing there kind of naked, you know? And when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to all types of emotions, love, hate, whatever it might be, for various different reasons. Now, if you are creating canon Star Wars, you got to be really careful with what you do, right? And you're playing with the most important part of it. You're using Yoda, you're using Darth Plagueis, which is a character that is so beloved, but no one's ever seen before, but everyone knows about. You're creating Plagueis for people who are diehard fans, the nerds, and you're putting him on screen, and you know those guys are going to know who he is. And you do him like that? Some cave dweller that's like looking over these random, bullshit-ass characters that were half-assed. Fuck off! That is not Plagueis watching that shit. In a surprising remark, Headland said the reaction to the Acolyte taught her not that fan are toxic, but
That
something
is
else
so
entirely.
stupid. Like what is Plagueis even doing there? Are you trying to say that this is what doesn't even make sense? Are you trying to say that Plagueis was Smilo Ren? That's what people call him. That fucking guy's master. And then that guy is Osha or May or whoever the fuck was the evil one or turned evil at the end. I don't remember the fucking story. Was their master as well? And then the new characters, do they both just die eventually and then Plagueis becomes Palpatine's master? Like, what are we saying is what was the setup here? It doesn't make any sense.
It made me start to think, rather than these fans are toxic or this thing is being mean to me, it made me think more that the content being made about Star Wars will ultimately be more culturally impactful than actual Star Wars. Bro, it's not that deep. Like, you created a story that didn't hit. Mandalorian hit with a lot of people. Is there any, where are all the ists and phobes there? I don't get it. The Kenobi show was dogged on, and you had Hayden and Ewan, Darth Vader.
No, there was later on in season 3, Disney and other people were calling people racist and homophobic because they didn't like the fact that what's her name? See, this is like, I don't even remember. Fuck. Hey Siri. Who was in the Jack Black episode of Mandalorian? They didn't like the fact that Lizzo was randomly in Star Wars for no reason. And people were being called racist because they didn't like the fact that Lizzo was in Star Wars. And the reason people didn't like that Lizzo is in Star Wars is because why the fuck is Lizzo in Star Wars? Like, it's not a racial thing. It's just the most random shit ever. Not to mention the fact that Jack Black was in that same episode. And nobody liked that either. But they didn't call out people for hating on Jack Black. Like, what's this double standard?
won. And it was absolutely ripped to shreds. Why? Because it was shit.
It's a representation of not only what I love, but the insane amount of work that the cast and crew put into this. I think you can see that on the screen or on your phone.
When the show was canceled just weeks after the finale aired, Leslye Headcannon says she was not surprised by it. I think I was surprised at the swiftness of it and the publicness of it. I was surprised by how it was handled. But once I was getting particular phone calls about the reaction and the criticism and the viewership, I felt like, okay, the writing's on the wall for sure. Yeah, the writing's on the wall because the writing of the show was non-existent. Headcannon stated that the understanding of the show's viewership was a little muddled for her. With Star Wars, you're not just measured within the marketplace that you happen to be in at the time. You're measured against every other Star Wars show. No, that's not true. You're measured against the level of confines that you have within the timeline that you are choosing to write about. Who are the characters? Where are we in this world that George Lucas has created? In this timeline, you were choosing to do something that was 200 years before the prequel trilogy, which still makes it very much prequels. Forget this High Republic bullshit, all right? That they're just trying to make a thing. This was 200 years before the prequels. It was still very much, you had Yoda, you put Ki-Adi-Mundi in there, you had Darth Plagueis. All of these things tie deep into episode 1, 2, and 3. And you messed it up completely. I mean, you weren't supposed to have Sith. You had a Sith that showed itself to Jedi, killing Jedi. You had a character that wasn't supposed to be born yet, thrown in there.
Yeah, like how... Okay. So a bunch of Jedi find a bunch of other Jedi that are all dead, and they have lightsaber stabs through their entire body. How do you explain that other than, oh, maybe a Sith is the one that killed them? Do we think that the Jedi just went rogue and just started murdering all of them? Like, there's been no fucking Sith for a millennia. That's what was stated in the original 6 movies. It's all because of Leslye Headcannon, bro. She doesn't know her shit, and she made a show where it was obvious she didn't know her shit.
Then was complicit in hiding this death of a Jedi from not just a random dude, which is already bad enough that a Jedi died, but from a Sith, from a dude with a red lightsaber, from a dark sider. He was complicit in hiding that information from Jedi Grandmaster Yoda, who he then sits next to in episode 1 when we see him open his mouth for the first time saying, the Sith have been extinct for over a millennium.
The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
See through you. We can.
Literally.
Come on, man. You were trying to change stuff.
He was the one that covered up the fact that there were Sith, and then he's the one that literally in the original movies said that they've been non-existent for a millennia. How do you excuse this?
Around.
Are you just saying that he was wrong? He was just wrong and he was lying the whole time when he said that? Like, what? Are you fucking dumb?
You didn't think deep enough about it. You might be a Star Wars fan at surface level or whatever you might think, but you didn't go deep enough. And that's why the show had its criticisms. That's why the show didn't do well. Not because of the 0.1% of random dumbasses out there that are just racists and sexist. Yeah, the show sucked because of this, because of that. Dude, no one's listening to them.
Shut your lame ass up.
Everybody who loves and hates the show looks at those people like they're retarded.
Hey.
Look, it's true.
True.
We can all agree that we look at those people like they're freaking aliens, like they don't belong here. All right? But just because they don't like the show, just because they happen to realize that it's shit, and we don't like the show because we happen to realize that it's shit and doesn't follow along George's path and the confines that he made, doesn't make everything we think the same. It's not that hard to figure out. Weird, man. Yeah, so let's get to the Plagueis thing. With Darth Plagueis making a cameo in the finale and May and Kymir teaming up, the Acolyte certainly left off a cliffhanger. Headland revealed that she had started to develop ideas for season 2 before the show was canceled. My showrunner and I had a lot of ideas going into season 1, so we definitely were thinking about that, specifically with Manny Jacinto's character. We always knew that Lee Jung-jae was going to be the emotional anchor of the first season.
Honestly, they should have just done all the shit that they wanted to in season 1 instead of planning like extra stuff that they think that people will be hyped about for season 2. Just put it all out in one season. I don't give a fuck. Maybe the show would have actually been good then.
The deterioration of that father figure. So we had already thought ahead and thought
They
about
put a
what type
bunch of
relationship
bullshit
we
in
wanted
season
to look
1.
at in the second season.
And they made
We had
one
talked
and a
about
half
all
good
of that
episodes.
from a thematic and character standpoint. But in terms of actual narrative, there were only a couple signposts that we knew we wanted to hit. Ultimately, though, Headland said she has no regrets about the show. I'm absolutely obsessed with Star Wars. I still am, and I love my show, and I know that it was wonderful. Okay, listen, I've taken a lot of L's being on the internet. I've had some hot takes that I look back on and I'm like, yeah, I just think differently now. Or maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or what the hell was I thinking? Or no, I stand by that. And I think that that's really important in just your life and journey as a person in general. You know, forget all this internet crap and everything like that. Just as your own journey, I think it's really important to be introspective and kind of see yourself from a third person and be like, what kind of person am I? Leslye. The majority of people that didn't like this show didn't hate it because of the 0.1% of assheads that are racists and sexists. The majority of people didn't like this show, and I'm talking to you. I don't know if you're going to watch this. I don't know if your wife's going to watch this or someone you know is going to watch this, I'm sure.
I don't read anything. My wife just gives me the weather report.
But the reason we didn't like this show is because it was bad. And I've given my points as to why it was bad. So many people have given their points as to why it was bad. And one reason why I try to be so composed nowadays, now that I'm like entering my late 30s, is because I've noticed that it really detracts from your arguments when you are overly emotional or making jokes or things like that. If you are able to eloquently get across your point with facts and respect and being not monotone, but being extremely composed, which I feel like I'm doing a decent job of, it eliminates any sort of misunderstanding of this guy is over emotional or whatever else, or quirky, or just doing it for the bit. That's great. That's a great way to look at things. That's people's reaction. It's usually their reaction to their own reaction. That's really not a great way to look at it. And I think that my videos really get the point across as to factually why the writing in this show didn't land. So, you know, just if you can put aside your ego for 2 seconds, and I'm sure this to you was your baby, you loved it, you spent late nights writing it, you thought this was amazing, it got $250 million from a major studio, from the biggest studio, and you made a Star Wars show, and you were like, this is awesome, and you were excited about it, and I'm sorry the show didn't land for you, and I'm sorry the show didn't land for us and so many of us.
It was said that you would destroy this Sith, not join them!
If you go back on my channel, years and years and years, I have a video, I think it's from 2018 or 2019, talking about the Acolyte and being so excited. I remember the video. I don't even think I was wearing a hat. I remember being so excited about this show, talking about the Acolyte, simply because the premise was so interesting and so intriguing, and we were all really excited about it. Could this be about Darth Xana? Could it be about Palpatine or someone new? Whatever. A lot of us had really high hopes for this. And yeah, I definitely did. Well, really by the first episode, I was like, what the hell am I watching? You know, it was very clear that this was written by someone who, sure, you might think you're a Star Wars fan, but you didn't do your Star Wars research, your Star Wars homework, to be able to know that a lot of the things that you wrote in there, while they may be interesting for the studio to accept, won't land with the fans and won't make sense. You wanted to have a Sith and you wanted to have this fight of the Jedi and the Sith, and it's a bit of a mystery, but you can't show a Sith to the Jedi. You can't. And if you do, no one can know about it. Like, he has to kill every single Jedi that he sees.
And he almost did. And I held out hope that all the characters that we just met were just gonna die after seeing this guy's face. But they didn't do that. You know how ballsy it would have been if they just killed all of them? Like, all the new characters that we just met just get killed because the Sith can't be exposed by them. But they didn't do that. And some of them got away and told the Jedi, and they made a cover-up about it. What the fuck? Why?
Without anyone noticing, right? It's like Red Dead Redemption, and I play that a lot, especially on my gaming channel. If you have witnesses that run off, you can't have that, right? And this show had a shit ton of that. There were so many witnesses. You even brought one out who wasn't born. I'm trying to laugh with you, Leslye. I really am. But then the press tour and like...
I feel like Star Wars is very like patriarchal. So
you get my point? This whole thing, it could have been done so well than, you know, having your lead actress make a diss track and then like everyone who hates the show is alt-right. I'm just trying to watch Star Wars, bro. I'm not trying to, I don't got my voter's ballot here. I'm just trying to watch freaking Star Wars, okay? I'm just trying to see some lightsabers, not Sith ones. And that's it. There's just too much bullshit. There's too much left and right and politics and all of this thrown in there. I'm just trying to watch Star Wars, man. It's not that deep. You made a story that really didn't hit. It was bullshit. Leslye, it was bad. It was bad. It didn't land. And that's why. Mando got 3 seasons because it landed. At least the first 2 did, right? It's now getting a movie because Mando season 1 and 2 did so freaking well. I don't know what to say, man. Proof's in the pudding. If I had the power to cancel a $250 million, you think I have that kind of power, Leslye? I'm a freaking nerd who just makes Star Wars videos, who apparently maybe you were donating to on Patreon, which I hope you'll like episode 2. And that's the thing. Art is meant to be critiqued. And listen, maybe, you know, episode 2 will come out as a fan production and people will be like, this is absolute dog shit. Maybe. And that's okay. I don't think so, because everything I did falls in line with what George created. That's how you have to go forwards, looking and writing for Star Wars. What would George do? Would George have a Sith killing Jedi with witnesses? Would George have Ki-Adi-Mundi, who stood beside Master Yoda in the original episode 1, saying the Sith have been extinct for millennia, now hiding and collaborating with witnesses who have seen a Sith kill Jedi, keeping it from Master Yoda himself? Would George do that? Would George have bricks turning into flame? And no. Would George have a Jedi Master not use the Force to save 2
I love when my brick
children
house catches
from
on
falling
fire.
and just go out and save 1 with his physical hand? No. Would George have Darth Plagueis peering out of a freaking cave like some weirdo? No. Would George have witches talking about the Force as a thread? I don't think so. Would George have a original, someone to supersede Anakin's prophecy? 2 Force sensitives, not just 1. 2. Buy 1, get 1 free. 2 Force sensitives created from the Force itself. No, he wouldn't. There's so much more you can unpack. I mean, the visuals themselves really weren't good. It felt like a fan film. When you had Kelnaka standing in the, whatever that planet was, there was nothing in the, it just looked like a fan film, for God's sakes. And this may be hard for you to hear, Leslye, but man, it just wasn't good. Why'd you make it sexual? Like, why is she checking out his lightsaber, dude? What, when he's in the bath? There's just so many questionable scenes that I'm wondering, what was your thought process? And that's why, ultimately, the show failed. If it was really as good as you thought, I don't got power to shut a show down. Nobody does. If something is good, people are going to support the crap out of it, or at least there will be enough people to support the crap out of it for it to get greenlit. We know the Star Wars fandom is out there. They loved Mando. They loved a whole bunch of other little projects that were out there. Ahsoka Season 1. That got enough views and praise for an Ahsoka Season 2. Where are all the Istinphobes there? Why didn't the Star Wars YouTubers hate that? Mind you, some of it was pretty ass too, but nothing compared to the...
Yes. Yes. A lot of Ahsoka season 1 was bad. I'm sorry. It's just true.
Acolyte. So I would really love to get to a day where a lot of us can take accountability and be like, you know what, maybe the show just wasn't good. And instead of blaming, YouTubers or media or whatever it might be that you supposedly donated to, and if you donated to me on Patreon, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. And I hope that you do enjoy Vader Episode 2 one day, actually in a few months. But this sort of I'm not at fault sort of thing, when something bombed this bad, I think maybe just accept that maybe it just wasn't great. And you might have had the
I'm making this video. I'm gonna title it Leslye Headcannon because I think that's so funny.
best of intentions, and I believe you did, because I don't think anyone wants to fail, especially on a grand scale like this. But I think that you missed the mark on this one. You did, and that's the nicest way I can put it. I hope we get better Star Wars going forwards. That's what I think about this. The inability to take accountability is pretty wild, and I hope that we can just get some people that do actually take accountability for what they write and what they present to us Star Wars fans, because at the end of the day, Star Wars is something that George created, and it must be respected and upheld to his standards. Nothing less than that. And that's all I want. I just want amazing Star Wars the way George would have made it. And what he wanted when he sold it to Disney, when they promised him that they would uphold his legacy and respect his story. I have yet to see that. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Goated video as usual. Star Wars Theory. I almost always agree with everything he says, except for his take on Andor. He says it's boring and stupid, and yeah, I don't agree with that. I think Andor is actually the best Star Wars thing that they've made, including better than The Mandalorian. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. That's just the truth. Anyways, chat, that's going to be the end of this video. Go support Star Wars Theory as well. I'll see y'all later. Like and subscribe.